they should be giving people FSD if they buy a new car, or even giving 1-year trials as a demand lever. I think that's a demand lever they could push a lot more. Right now they're giving 1 month or 3 months if you have a referral code. I think they should be pushing this much harder to people.
Welcome to the Gigacast. My name is Gav, here today with Omar, Sawyer, recently married Sawyer, and Farzad. And today we are going to be talking about the price of Teslas, specifically framed in the next 6 to 12 months, all of the different things that could affect the price, how much you can buy a Tesla for, where you can save, all the opportunities that are out there. There's obviously a lot moving around right now with tariffs and different costs and parts and new vehicles. So there's so much to discuss on this topic. Before we get started, 70% of y'all love watching our videos, have not clicked that subscribe button yet. Go ahead and click it right now. We do 1 episode a week, and it's always high quality tech content. With that being said, let's jump right into things. And what better way to welcome you back, Sawyer, than to have you kick it off?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, finally married, man. Got the hardware on the ring.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I came back last night when some news that Tesla finally introduced their rear-wheel drive long-range rear-wheel drive Model Y in the U.S. at least. And we've sort of been expecting this for a little while now. We were wondering when they might introduce it, and we figured they would introduce it at a point when demand for the all-wheel drive was maybe not as strong as they wanted it to be. So this will kick off, hopefully, more sales. Same price as before, so $44,990. The range is about 6% higher versus the old model, and it's a little bit quicker, 0 to 60, about a second quicker. To me, this is obviously, I think, the best value vehicle that Tesla sells. It has certain features that the old Model Y rear-wheel drive didn't have, like it has the full all-wheel drive 16-speaker sound system. The other one would get, I think, a 7-speaker sound system, stuff like that. But, it sort of makes you wonder, okay, are they going to potentially introduce incentives for this model next month? Because that sort of seems to be the path that Tesla's on right now. And demand is not as high as they'd like it to be, I think. And it's been a little bit disappointing for me, too. It's like I've been a little bit surprised at how quickly Tesla's introduced incentives on the long-range all-wheel drive model. And I think we thought, well, the new Model Y is so good, has so many new features versus the old model, that would be a good enough sell. But that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. And whether that's because of brand stuff or political issues or just because of the economic environment, we could go back and forth on that. But my guess is, even though the Tesla just introduced this rear-wheel drive model, they're probably going to introduce incentives on it next month, would be my guess. Maybe some 2% or 0% financing. We'll see what they end up doing. But nonetheless, it's good to see Tesla introducing more trims, and we'll see how people respond to it. But I think it's a great value for Tesla for sure.
Yeah. Do you think this is part of their verbiage on the quarterly earnings report that says we have the introduction of new models, including more affordable models, or do we still think this is not that?
No, I don't think this is it. I think they mean something else. Yeah. This would be kind of disappointing if that were the case. No, I think it's a different vehicle.
Well, at the time they started writing that, this trim already existed on the old Model Y. Yeah. So it'd be a little weird to say it's a new vehicle and then it's just the same variant. I mean,
same price too.
I think this is the thing that people kind of forget about the new Model Y is they haven't introduced all of the trims of the Model Y. So they started with the launch series. Now they've got the base model. They've also got to introduce the performance. Until they have the performance, the base model, and the all-wheel drive, the new Model Y hasn't fully really ramped. So I think it's an important piece of the puzzle to be able to unlock that demand from the entry-level segment. And I think it'll be pretty popular. We'll see what happens.
I see a path. Like, if you look at all the features that the new rear-wheel drive have, it has every single feature that the all-wheel, more expensive one has, except for, obviously, slower 0 to 60. And just no all-wheel drive. But to me, like it paints a pretty clear picture on what maybe the more affordable model would be. And I still think it's probably a stripped-down Model Y, at least initially, that there's so many good features in this rear-wheel drive version that they could just take out to just bring down the cost. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's just what they end up doing. Like taking out the rear screen, obviously cloth seats, but the full sound system, that they could take that out and a bunch of other things. But I see that path going forward.
Yeah, if they can cut $7,500 worth of cost out, they'll get under $30K after the tax credit, which I think is an important psychological barrier to break for a new car.
If we do some like rough math on that, so it's $37,500 with the EV tax credit, 350 miles of range. It's got the full speaker system. Literally, the only thing it doesn't have versus the all-wheel drive, to my knowledge, is just the extra motor. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Is that the only difference? Okay.
Yep.
So they shaved off $4,000, but the motor's not going to cost $4,000. So they're definitely taking a margin hit there. You could take cells out of the battery. You could remove the speakers. You could change the seats. You can remove the rear screen. The Model Y battery probably costs like 10-ish thousand, if I were to guess, like just off the top of my head. If you get some cells out of the process and get it down to, say, a 250-mile range or something, you might be able to shave off, I don't know, like a $1,000 to $1,500, maybe a little bit less, because you still have to account for the pack and everything else. It's not a direct one-to-one ratio from a cost perspective. So with all the speakers and the seats and everything else and the screen, you might be able to yank out another $1,000 potentially. So that's another $2,500 that you could yank out from a cost perspective. But I don't know where else the cost would be. So it's like at that point, Tesla would have to make a decision and say, okay, we're just going to break this. We're just going to sell this cheaper Model Y if that's like the new, more affordable trim at break even. And then sort of bank on self-driving to make profit.
You guys remember, I think it was like a year ago on the earnings call, I think it was Vaibhav, the CFO. He was like, we're sort of reaching the limits of how much cost we can strip out of the 3 and the Y platform. Maybe that changed with like the refreshed versions. And maybe Elon's new directive of like, let's just focus on our existing lineup and making those cheaper. Maybe they found new ways to do it. But to me, like, even though I see the path that they're going to take of maybe a stripped down Y, like, how do you strip out thousands and thousands of dollars from it, even with just cloth seats? And I don't know how they do that.
Yeah, I think it would have to be some sort of calculated, like, we are going to give up margin on the hardware side. We're going to go printer model. We're going to sell the printer at a loss almost, and then make money on the ink. And then
is the ink FSD though?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
What about? I know we've had conversations on this, but especially with all these new vehicles and still these different pieces. What about tariffs right now? It seems like everything is about to get more expensive as these kick in. Literally, I'm doing condo renovations right now, and the guy's trying to quote me a different price than he did 2 months ago because he's like, "Yep, the tariffs are kicking in, right? We've got stuff coming through," and so it feels like that is hitting at a time while Tesla's trying to create a lower cost vehicle and potentially these incentives are going to be removed, right? And so I'm just curious to hear your guys' thoughts. There seems like there's a lot of moving pieces.
I mean, that's a good thing, though. So it is good that Tesla's doing this at this time because you have to view that through the lens of everybody else, right? So if you look at everybody else, Tesla's one key advantage, plus a handful of other automakers, is their localization of parts, which means that they're not subject to tariffs, right? In as many spots as other auto manufacturers would be. So right there, you already have a relative. I mean, the net prices will go up, right? So less people will have access to them. But then relative to everybody else, the actual prices will be, the price difference will be bigger because everyone else's prices go higher. And then on the flip side, Tesla's also going to offer models underneath that, new models underneath that. They're going to bring the price down relative to everybody else. So if yeah, go ahead.
So I guess, what do you guys consider right now a cheap car? And is that definition changing?
To me, it's sub 30.
Yeah.
If you can get it out the door, I mean, that's my definition. And I bet you half of this country would be like, that's insane. I would call it sub 10, right? So it's all relative. But I think from a market perspective, especially for an electric vehicle, especially one that can drive itself, if you're able to hit the sub 30 mark out the door, you're going to be in a very, 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 very good spot, especially in this world of tariffs potentially. So, I think Tesla's strategy is extremely good. But one thing to highlight, though, is that even without the tariffs, if you look at the economic environment, it's not really that great for auto. So Ford came out with their earnings a couple of days ago. I believe it was Tuesday or Monday. I forget exactly when. But if you look at the year-over-year sales for Q1, they're down 7%. right? And this is one of the best selling sort of brands as far as the F-150 goes, especially in the pickup truck market in the United States. But those sales have come down a lot. Why is that? People just can't afford more expensive vehicles. And Ford's sort of net average price for their vehicles, it's mostly going to be in trucks. Like it's literally like what, 80% trucks or whatever. No, it's less than that. It's less than that. But a lot of it is trucks, and then also sell the Mustang and other cars in other places like their SUVs and stuff. But their sales are coming down. Rivian sales have come down. Tesla sales have come down. If you're going to look at other legacy automakers, you're going to see a similar trend. So that points to softness in the auto market, right? I think the economy is not in great shape at present time. The tariff stuff is going to make it more difficult to navigate. So it comes down to what value for money can you offer? Because people will buy less cars, but then people are going to start shopping even harder to make sure they're getting really good value for money. And so this is where Tesla is very uniquely positioned, because they can do that by offering cheaper vehicles. And then the value proposition is vastly different than everyone else's, especially if Tesla can tell the story. And Omar made a phenomenal post about this a few days ago that said, basically said, and I don't want to put words in Omar's post, but if Tesla can't grow sales in 2025, they're being dumb, because the value proposition is absolutely unbeatable, especially with the advent of unsupervised self-driving. We're one month away in Austin, Texas, from the best-selling car in the world being driving itself. Like the best-selling car in the world in Austin, Texas will not have anyone in the car, and it's going to drive itself around. Okay, if that isn't the most magical selling point of all time, and that car starts at $37,500 now, if that isn't the best possible value proposition you can offer a customer, I don't know what is. And so if you're not growing sales based on that value proposition, you're not doing something right. Something's missing. And it could be like, okay, well, Elon destroyed the brand. Okay, maybe that's it. Okay, well, not enough people are aware that this is going on. Okay, maybe that's it, right? So
you know what I saw during my brief break off X, and I was on YouTube, I was seeing more Tesla energy ads on YouTube. And I was like, why is Tesla okay spending money advertising with Tesla Energy, but not their vehicles? Their vehicles, if anything, they need advertising at this point. Like, why not just spend, I don't know, $500, a couple $100 per vehicle just on some ads at this point? Like, and not enough people know how incredible these cars are. We know, but most people don't. And it's not like they're just, I know Elon loves to say like word of mouth is going to sell Teslas. That has been the case in the past. But to be able to grow at the clip that Tesla wants to grow at, you would need an insane amount of a quick speed of word of mouth to be able to keep up with the growth expected. And they're just not having that right now. So why not experiment further, and not like what they did last year, or maybe it was in 2023. They dipped their toe in a little bit with marketing. It wasn't a real try. They didn't actually try it. Like, create some actual, not just throwing some B-roll in some ads and saying, look how great our product is. Create some unique, unique ads from the ground up, and get creative with it. Tesla has been so good in the past of creating like viral moments on the internet. Like, do that with their ads. Like, just try it out, see how it goes. And you can't just do it for a couple of months. You have to give it some real time for the market to absorb it, understand it, and for it to do its thing. It's probably going to take like a year or so for advertising to really see the effects of that advertising. But I don't understand like why they're okay with spending money advertising Tesla Energy but not their vehicles.
The flip side to that, though, Sawyer, is that without doing any of that, they have the best-selling car in the world.
That's true, but like, why the sales could be higher though? Like, we can keep saying that Tesla has the number one best-selling car in the world, which they do, but like sales, we all know could be way better at the same time.
It could be the super number one best-selling car.
And also, like, while they have that, running the ads on others could help, right? So like an example, funny enough, just to compare to the stock market, you have State Street, right? They have SPY. Everybody owns SPY. But they have all these other products too, and those are not anywhere near being the number one product, right? So I think for Tesla, the trick would be use your name brand value of, hey, we have that number one seller, we have that car everyone has. This is also other Teslas, right? And using that name brand value to say, hey, that bestseller, we also have this, put this in front of people. And it really increases your marketing even better by having a number one seller, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same reaction when I looked at the Tesla energy ads on YouTube, and I immediately went on Google's ad transparency tool and I said, let me see what other ads they're running. And it was all energy. And they had actually produced these video ads for energy, but not for the automotive side of the business. And I was just thinking, well, why wouldn't they try this for the automotive side of the business? And I've never been someone who's, heavy on advertising, but, in order to just be flat this year, just be flat, they're going to have to deliver 500,000 cars every quarter on average for the rest of the year. So I don't, when I see them putting these incentives on, I say, good. They have a lot to prove this quarter. They need to be putting on every incentive they have. They need to be trying things in terms of marketing and advertising. The Tesla story has not reached the consumer. I mean, I think people remember sort of the original Tesla story, which was that, hey, we have an EV and others are still making gas cars. It was really easy to see the value of an EV. And actually, EV sales have continued to grow. People do like EVs. But Tesla needs to tell that story to consumers. And advertising is one way to do that. I think it's just part of really a strategy of telling the story. You can do it with or without advertising. In the old days, Elon really told the story himself. Nowadays, he's telling, he's talking about a lot of different things. He's talking about politics. He's talking about, immigration. In addition to Tesla, he started to tweet about it more. But what the consumer really needs to understand is, Tesla is a clean sheet approach to automotive. We took everything that you hate about the automotive industry and we started with a clean sheet. Not buying from a dealership, buying online, the service experience, the way the car's software works, all of these little features. It's bringing the car into the 21st century. It's, a car that gets software updates and drives itself. And what consumers are really hearing is just about how, Elon is a Nazi and not about the product, which, I mean, you look at this new Model Y, $37,000 after the tax credit. Compare that to the original Model 3, 220 miles of range. This thing has nearly 400 miles of range. It's just such an incredible product. It's got AI4. I mean, I wonder, honestly, who's even going to want a Model 3 for $35,000 when this is just $2,000 more? If they can't sell a product that's this phenomenal, something is broken within the company, honestly. I mean, I know there's economic factors as well, but these things should be selling themselves.
Every time Tesla does like a 0% rate offer, that's costing them thousands of dollars. Like, are you telling me, like, Tesla, that the ROI on doing advertising is really that low where it's worth doing like 0% rate instead of some marketing out there? I don't know if I believe that.
There's this this cool podcast that talks a lot about Tesla. They could sponsor. No, I'm just putting that out there.
But let me throw something in there too, though. Is that I do think, like, it could be that Q2 is going to be strong. It could be that Q2 is going to have those sales that we think that they need. Because on the flip side of all the negative attention the company has gotten in the last 4 to 6 weeks, almost 8 weeks, the amount of eyes on the company has never been greater by a factor of like 10x, right? With all the fires and all the Nazi stuff and whatever, like all that negative stuff. The flip side of it is that it had a tremendous amount of eyes on the story. And theoretically, those sales are not really going to flow through until the second quarter of this year because, Tesla was switching over the line for their best-selling product, right?
I think if demand was high, though, if that were the case and demand were high, they wouldn't be doing all these incentives.
That's fair. That's
to me, that's a signal that demand's not high enough. And they need a... go ahead.
Yeah, just to kind of pull us back out for a second, because we've gone really niche into the marketing side and deliveries and some of those other pieces, pulling back out to some of the pricing items. So right now, you guys obviously are very familiar with this. For people that are wondering, like, what's I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Cheapest that you can get a Tesla. Second, not necessarily the cheapest, but what is the best Tesla at the best price? And then what's the priciest so that people can kind of really understand the range?
I think you can get used Teslas in their inventory for under 20 grand now, right? I believe so. And then obviously,
pull up the pull it up. Sorry.
Obviously, those are older Teslas, but still, I mean, not everyone. A used Tesla is still a great Tesla, great vehicle in general. I think the most expensive Tesla is still the Cybertruck, the Cyber Beast at like 100 grand ish. I think those are slightly discounted, 10 grand or so, but roughly 95, 90. So yeah, it's a huge swing.
Yeah, Tesla's in this weird position right now. Yeah, the cheapest one you can buy, it's going to be used Teslas. Last time I saw, CDG, who's a car dealership guy on X, who's a great account to follow for the broader auto market. Used Teslas are like 10 to 12 days of inventory typically. So these things are selling.
Yeah, there you go. Under
Teslas
20
are selling. Yeah. And listen, this could play. So how many of them are there? Does it, if you scroll all the way down, does it say?
Well, that's only one zip code.
Miles.
Yeah.
Oh, one zip code, right? Okay.
902.
Yeah. So
classic.
Yeah. Go buy one, snatch one right now. Use my referral code. So the Tesla has, so it has to be exposure then at this point. It's like if they really want to increase sales, the other side of it too is like, that's the rear-wheel drive that Sawyer was mentioning. So Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive starts at $42,490. The one thing we have to keep in mind too, though, is that if you look at the auto market in general, to be able to do what Tesla has done up to this point, which is just sell out, basically be supply constrained the whole time up to recently, is very rare for any automaker. Right? Especially for ones that have been around for a while. They have to sort of put supply into the mix, et cetera, et cetera. So I think Tesla folks are just very used to being essentially unlimited demand for their product. Now, there's no reason why they still can't have that, again, because the value for money you're getting with these vehicles is so unbelievably good. Like anybody with a garage right now, anybody who has a garage and has access to charge a car at their house, why don't you have an EV? I don't even care if it's a Tesla. Why don't you have an EV? It's an absolute no-brainer. So it saves you money and gas. Yeah.
During my my wedding weekend, this past weekend, I had my whole family out, and they were talking about maybe their next vehicles that they would buy, and all of them wanted a hybrid. They didn't want to go full EV because they didn't think that the charging infrastructure wasn't there, and that they didn't think they were quite ready. And I think that partly is a lack of EV education. And obviously, I cover EVs for a living and I educate them to some degree, but they don't see the advertising from Tesla to inform them, look how many superchargers there are. They're right around the corner of your building. Like, it's super easy to charge at home. Like, you get 300 miles of range and you can top up at a supercharger with like 200 miles in 15 minutes or something, or 150. Tesla just needs to get the word out there better than they're doing right now. Because it's at this point, like Omar said, they got to hit 500,000 units per quarter the rest of the year to be flat over year. The only way they do that is if these more affordable models knock it out of the park and they can ramp them up quickly enough, which is an if.
Yeah, if. Yeah, so Gary Black was right, is what we're saying.
Initially I was skeptical on advertising and I was against it, but it's clear that these incentives are not pushing people to buy Teslas as much as we thought they were gonna. So,
shout out Gary Black. We should bring him on one day. Maybe.
Yeah, listen, I mean, we've heard from the audience. You guys also want to hear a little bit more back and forth on disagreements with some of these pieces. What's your guys? So it seems like you guys are all on the same page that Tesla should be doing marketing for these, that they should potentially move away from some of the incentives or have some type of a mix, but also get marketing in there.
There's a difference between marketing and advertising. I think they need to do paid advertising. They do marketing and they do that pretty well already, but I think they need to do paid advertising in areas that is beyond X. Like, go to the YouTubes, go to the more traditional channels to reach people that have no clue about how good Teslas are. Like, the new Model Y rear-wheel drive should be selling like hotcakes. It should.
Now, I will tell you, a flip side to that argument, though, is, and again, this is Elon's playbook. This is how his brain works, right? In about a month's time, less than a month, hopefully, but next month, people are going to be downloading the Tesla app to ride hail a self-driving car to go from point A to point B. And in that same app, Tesla can be like, wasn't that the sickest thing you've ever experienced? Did you know you can buy this? Did you know you can buy it for $37,000? It's cheaper than a Camry over 5 years. It's cheaper than a RAV4 over 5 years. It can be all yours. Oh, and by the way, if you're struggling to pay for your loan or your lease or whatever, just add it to the network, yo. Just add it to the network. We'll share the money with you, and it's all good. That sales channel, that advertising channel, that marketing channel that Tesla now has with that app, with the robotaxi network. Again, we won't know how well it's going to work until 5 years from now, but that's one variable that Tesla has that nobody else has that's going to help them sell this product. And it could be a simple, like the question becomes like, why hasn't Tesla done this already? That's really the question. Like, why hasn't, if we all are on the same page on this now, and then we've had people yelling from the rooftops that they should have been doing this for a long time, and they still haven't done it, the question becomes why? And it could just simply be that they have so much insane confidence in the self-driving capability and that becoming the biggest forcing function for people to purchase the car that they're not going to put any effort in today when they know that's already like right around the corner. That's the only justification I can think of, just to figure out like, why wouldn't they do this? Like, why wouldn't they advertise? Why wouldn't they do all these things we talked about? So I don't know.
Well, I don't think it's worked so far. Maybe with unsupervised FSD that changes, but I'm not sure advertising is necessarily the whole answer. I think it's really a broad-based sort of story you have to tell to the consumer. And you look at Rivian, they've been running TV ads. I just saw some cute ad with some, kids selling lemonade or something.
I saw that. It's cute.
And, their sales are down 36%. Yeah. So I think there's more to it here. Part of it is people being unaware. Hybrids do seem to have sort of won over the mind share, right? I think once people move to an EV, they tend to only buy EVs, more than 90% of them. But getting people over that mental hurdle of moving from hybrid to an EV, that's very challenging for some reason. Part of it, I think, is, just gas prices, electricity prices. Gas prices being high has been something that's always motivated people to switch. Those haven't really been rising. They've been really falling for quite some time. No different now with the tariffs. So it's a challenging question. I don't think there's necessarily a silver bullet where, hey, let's just run some ads and now sales are skyrocketing. But we are at the point where you got to try everything, right? You got to try everything. This whole debate about should we advertise, should we not advertise? In my mind, and I was more on the we probably don't need to advertise camp, but in my mind, the we should advertise camp wins because sales haven't grown, right? Mm-hmm. So at this point, whatever you need to do to make that happen, whether it's advertising or getting Elon out into Times Square and, selling cars by hand. I don't know. We got to try something new.
One of those big Jesus signs. Yeah.
Dude, for this whole time, like my whole thing has been if they, because I was on the same boat as Omar. And to some extent, I still buy the whole thesis that, listen, like not advertising and not doing everything possible to get people to buy your car. When I used to work at the company, like we always look for forcing functions to make the best possible product. And so what's a wonderful forcing function to make the best possible product? You are forcing the company to have to sell the car on its merits, not to tell people why they should buy it. So that's one backwards ass way of rationalizing not advertising, right? So you are you just have an intense force towards like, get the prices down. I don't give a shit. We're not going to advertise it. Get the prices down, right? But if they were to advertise, the best bang for the buck, in my opinion, you remember the Temu ads from the Super Bowl from a couple of years ago? They just drill that stupid like ooh Temu, whatever the hell the jingle was. Okay, bro, a 1 minute ad, primetime Super Bowl. Okay, I don't know if it's like after the first kickoff or before the game starts, wherever that primetime is, before the halftime show. I don't care if it's $100 million for that 1 hour, 1 minute slot. Just showcase the shit out of the brand and just use that as your ad. Boom. And then see if that generates anything. And if that generates something, great. Okay, cool. You've learned something. You've learned that putting it in front of, I don't know how many eyeballs watch the Super Bowl, like 800 million or something. You're already a global brand, whatever the number is. Just put it in front of their face and be like, yo, buy the car. This is how sick it is. You have a Cybertruck pulling an F-250 up a hill. You got a freaking Roadster flying. I don't know. Just come up with the most ridiculous shit. You have the Roadster in space looking down on all the cars, drag stripping against the fastest cars in the world. And all the Teslas are fucking reaching, first, the quarter mile first. Or whatever.
You know what might work
so
for like a Super Bowl ad is to focus on how American Teslas are. Because I feel like that's the audience.
Yes.
I would appreciate that.
Yes. Yeah. Just put a turret on the bed of the Cybertruck with a bunch of American flags and just shoot at shit. Fucking just go crazy. Why not?
Yeah,
it's great. It's fun.
I feel like on your one marketing point where you were saying, hey, it's a forcing function of we have to make great cars. I don't feel like that's necessarily what marketing is trying to, go against. It's another adjacent segment of the people who are never going to see any of those great features, right? It's like, doesn't matter how great your features are if nobody knows about them, right? Maybe they'll have heard of
I agree.
Tesla.
I'm just trying to figure out why they're not doing it.
I think Elon is bored.
Not doing it.
I think Elon's bored by the traditional auto business. He's like, who cares about the marketing and advertising? Like, FSD is going to change the world. Let's just focus on that.
I agree.
Is it also part of the fact that the move is towards Robovan and Optimus and other items, and that, like, I would imagine an Optimus ad would kill it. Do you think like they're not going to market Optimus?
They're not going to need to.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any point in
sales are flat for 3 quarters.
I don't think there's any point in running an ad for a product you can't buy yet. But, I think the issue that people have really been sort of highlighting is there are a lot of people who actually really want a Tesla, but they don't know that they want it. It hasn't been explained to them. I mean, if you put them in the car, a lot of times they can see it right away. But you just got to show them, hey, look, this thing's fun to drive. It's fast. Wouldn't you like not going to the gas station and filling up at home? Wouldn't you like having these features in your car, not having to drive, getting software updates? There's a little bit of a communication gap there. And, part of it's unavoidable, part of it's macro, part of it's rates, part of it's just EVs in general. But I think you look at these prices, I mean, $37,000 for a new Model Y, $35,000 for a new Model 3, $20,000 for a used one. Affordability isn't really the issue anymore, I think. The affordability is there for quite a lot of people, or at least enough to drive growth. What they really need is just to help people understand why they want this product. And if they do, they'll go to the website and order one.
That's what Steve Jobs is so good at, was convincing people they need an Apple product, and they didn't even know that they wanted beforehand. He was so good at presenting it in a way that, like, look, guys, this is going to change your life or significantly make this thing easier or whatever. Elon has always been an incredible marketer, but he didn't have that sort of same Steve Jobs sellability, if that makes sense. He's good at presenting products to the world and making other people talk about them, but that sort of sales savviness that Steve Jobs had, yeah.
Well, and that's different from advertising, and that's different from marketing. Steve Jobs was a sales genius. He was sales. He sold you the product, right? Elon is like, my product's going to be so undeniable. You're going to force yourself to buy it. I'm not even going to put any effort in selling it to you because I know it's the best product, right? But that's the massive gap that's now presented between how Apple sold and how Tesla sells today. So
when I went to the Cybertruck, I was going to say, when I went to the Cybertruck delivery event and I was watching Elon live in front of me show this thing to the world in November of 2023, the presentation itself was very short and lacked a lot of good information. I feel like truck buyers would have appreciated, or just people in general. And I was like, I walked away from like, was that it? Like, what's the price? What's the range? Like, what are the other truck-like capabilities that this thing can do? And he just lets the website do the talking, which I'm not sure was the best approach at the time. I still don't now. But
I think it could be in his head too. Like, it could just be Elon is just self-conscious about his ability to sell. Maybe he doesn't think he's that good of a salesman. Maybe he's aware that he's a sort of awkward autist that, you know, has like weird mannerisms on the stage, and he thinks that the Tesla can do a better job. You know, it could just be simply down to the human condition. He doesn't have confidence in his selling ability. I mean, dude, like, I think he does. I was there too.
I think he has confidence, but he was probably worried that if he announced that the truck was $100,000 instead of 40,000, people would have booed.
Maybe. If there was one crowd that wouldn't have booed, it was that one, though. Like,
hey, I mean, I still bought it, but I mean, can you imagine if they'd actually gotten that thing to 40 or 50? I mean, that would be amazing, but they're starting to get it down now.
I just remember the first 5-10 minutes of that presentation. His literally half of his body was not even lit. You couldn't even see his face when he was talking. And his brother literally had to yell, be like, move forward into the light. He's like, oh yeah.
Dude, we were crammed like a bunch of sardines in the crowd. Like, no one could see because there was no stadium level seating or standing.
It's so Tesla. Yeah. It's so Tesla.
It is.
Yeah. So were you at least tall, able to get a good view?
No, I'm average guy, so I'm like stuck behind all the tall people.
I would have had to put Sawyer on my shoulders.
I think it's a lot of good points, and they are trying to get this stuff cheaper. And Omar, you even mentioned, right, the Cybertruck, they're bringing it down. So they're offering these stripped down vehicles. Is there anything else from a macro perspective, from a company-wide perspective, from ingenuity deals that you guys see affecting the prices of these vehicles one way or the other over the next year?
I think unsupervised FSD is the next potential lever. I mean, I said the same thing about supervised FSD, but unsupervised has a very unique sort of value prop, which is you don't have to pay attention anymore. That you win your time back, and people value their time the most, right? And so at least people that are aware of time being the most valuable currency, which might be only 20% of the population, honestly. Like looking at how many people are addicted to social media and scrolling and shit. I don't think a lot of people understand how valuable their time is. Even like myself, who tries to value time very highly, I sometimes get like distracted, and 3 hours later, I'm like, what the hell just happened? What, right? So that value proposition nobody else can offer, which is like, yo, get in your car, it takes you anywhere, you can add it to the fleet, you don't have to pay attention, you can be on your phone, you can sleep, you can do whatever. You know, so that could do something, but the public has to be aware that exists. The public has to be aware that that's a thing that Tesla's offering. You can do that now. You can do that today, right? And the federal, what's interesting is like if you look at how a lot of states regulate autonomous vehicles, they're actually a lot more like. They allow it a lot more than you would think. I've done some digging on this, and it seems like the regulations there in a lot of states for autonomous vehicles, like unsupervised cars, to operate no problem. It's just the companies haven't had the technology and the confidence and the safety to allow that to happen. And now we're sort of reaching this uncharted territory where, like, for example, in Texas, you don't need a safety driver behind an autonomous vehicle. What does that mean? Is that literally it can operate anywhere. Neither does California, but the localities have the ability to influence the state law to kind of put some parameters and some guardrails on how they would like the autonomous vehicle to be released in their cities, right, or localities. In Texas, it's a freaking free-for-all. Arizona, same thing. Florida, very similar. Like there's pockets in the country where you can just open up the reins, right? And so but a company, again, hasn't had the confidence or the balls to do that. With somebody like Elon and Tesla, they have the balls to do anything. Literally, they have the balls, except for advertise, right? They have the balls to do anything. So now we're reaching this point where you have regulation that allows unsupervised, and you have a company that can do, in theory, can do unsupervised very soon. And so all of a sudden, you might get a sort of a situation where in areas you would never think that you would have a self-driving car, like in the suburban or urban area or rural areas in the United States, which, by the way, is a gigantic percentage of the landmass of this country. Like 98%, 95% of the landmass in this country is rural and suburban, okay? Or like, interstate or whatever, intercity. All of a sudden, boom, regulations allow you, Tesla feels confident doing it, bam. And then imagine going down I-35 or I-95 or I-5 or whatever. You start seeing these like the car's driving themselves. There's nobody in the car, and they're all Model Ys. They're all Model 3s. You know, people can see with their own eyes, like, what the hell? What the hell? That Tesla didn't have somebody. That could be it. That could do something. I don't know, but that's heavily dependent on the technology. I mean, most people don't even think that's a real thing. You know, most people don't think that's even around the corner. So
are you saying that you think that's going to make things cheaper, more expensive?
It should generate a lot of demand. It should, right? And if there's a lot of demand, then in theory prices go up, because the utility of a self-driving car speaks for itself. You get your time back, but then it becomes an asset instead of a liability. Instead of like being a car that you have to pay insurance on and it depreciates, all of a sudden you have a cash flow generating machine that you can add to a self-driving fleet, and it starts making money for you.
Omar, I'm curious, because we talk a lot about this on Spaces. I definitely think that the ultimate vision is what Farzad's hitting on, right? That unsupervised version that allows you to reclaim your time back. How far of a timeline do you see to where that's something that's outside of just, beta testing in areas like Texas, widespread right across the board? Hey, I'm someone in Florida or Maryland, or maybe I'm in Wyoming, right? And I just want to go somewhere and I don't want to have to look at the wheel or, have my eyes where I can't look at my phone. What do you think that timeline is?
Look, I mean, it's going to take time. It's not just about having big balls. They're going to be deploying in June. It's going to be another 12 to 18 months or more before you have wide scale unsupervised FSD. There are regulations, I think, that need to be updated on the federal level. So, we've kind of been in this place where they've been saying, well, let's just focus on autonomy. And now the sales aren't growing. They didn't grow in 2024. We're looking at a situation now for 2025 where sales might not grow again. So this is kind of, I think, an all hands on deck crisis scenario. I mean, the company's not going anywhere, obviously. They've got a very strong balance sheet, but the value of Tesla ultimately, long term, will be the value of autonomy, which is to say, let's say a robotaxi goes and makes $30,000 a year and Tesla gets, let's say, $6,000 of that as their cut. The value of autonomy is that share times the number of cars on the road. So if that second factor, number of cars on the road, is less because you haven't been able to sell cars through, and having a great product that can drive itself, that's all great. It helps to have a great product. And I think they have much better products this year than last year. But the core of it is just good old fashioned car sales techniques that dealers and auto companies have been employing for decades, even before autonomy. And I think that needs to be more of the focus. Elon, I think, has had his hands full. He's been in the government. He's been dealing with marketing himself and his agency and SpaceX rockets. I think you are seeing him now tweet more about Tesla, focus more on Tesla. He's a guy who, when he applies himself to anything, it can have a huge impact. So I think it's time for Tesla to kind of look at their storytelling approach fresh and figure out how to get that story in front of the global consumer.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more companies continue to do those items. If you guys have any other thoughts around the pricing, definitely cut in with it. But I know there's a couple other quick topics we wanted to hit on. One is the recent insider buying and selling. So, Sawyer, you had a post that went pretty viral on this for the first time in, 5 years?
I think 5 years roughly.
Yeah. So maybe your thoughts there?
I mean, it wasn't a huge purchase. It was $1 million by Joe JOWUA. I was sort of telling people, focus on more maybe what the message that sends, considering we're pretty close now to unsupervised FSD launching. I know some people made fun of me for saying, why would we look into this? It's nothing. At the same time, I sort of misguided people in terms of Robin Denholm selling her shares. That was sort of to cover some of the reason. Some of her options, I think, were expiring soon, and she had to sell it also to cover some of the taxes from some of the other shares that she exercised. So I wouldn't look too deeply into those. But nonetheless, it's been disappointing over the years to see so many insiders just constantly selling, even if it's just for options reasons and, to pay for taxes because of those. It's just a good sign nonetheless to just see some sort of insider buying and a board member at that. We've seen board members selling for years and years now. And it's just nice to see somebody buying. Hopefully that starts a new trend of buying, especially with FSD unsupervised launching and the Optimus later down the road. But it's never a good sign, like just see constant selling. So, and obviously Tesla board members are paid pretty handsomely. So hopefully we can see some more buying in the future.
I think the biggest signal by far from an insider buying would be Elon. Because he threw the entire retail investor especially, a lot of folks while he was selling to purchase Twitter and keep it afloat. Mm-hmm. That made a lot of people upset. Now that XAI bought X, I think the chances of Elon having to sell any shares or to fund any of his operations seems gone, because the guy can raise money with literally like that at any point in time. So his capital needs are the dude's the greatest capital creator of all time, it seems like. So I would like to see Elon buy some shares back. That'd be awesome to see. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that would be really good to see, especially if he has a lot of confidence in FSD and stuff. But there's also the whole, the compensation package thing going on in Delaware that needs to be put to bed. There's the whole, moving to Texas and Texas potentially coming out with a new package for him so that he can start getting paid on the bot and long-term robotaxi. He wants to get to 25% ownership, right? So there's all these different variables.
I'd like an update on that. I want to know if he still cares about 25%. It's been about a year and a half since he said that. I'm curious if he still feels that way.
Yeah. So I don't know. And then there's also is there succession planning going on at some point in the future? Do we expect Elon to be at Tesla forever? Especially as the bot ramps and stuff. Because I think the last guidance he gave was that he was definitely going to be at the company at least through the bot, development of the bot and the ramp of the bot, from what I can remember. But in theory, that's coming up here in the next couple of years. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're kind of also alluding a little bit to that story that came out from the WSJ about Tesla's board potentially looking for a successor CEO, and then the Tesla account denying it, and Elon going on a bit of a rampage. I think one of your tweets ended up in the middle of that, Farzad.
It sure did.
Created by him as well.
Yeah. I think the Wall Street Journal has had a negative slant towards Tesla and Elon for a long time. I wouldn't specifically buy the story that they were selling, which is Tesla's looking to replace Elon because of the recent struggles, right? That was the framing of the story. I don't think that's true whatsoever. And as soon as the story broke, you saw the stock went down 4%. But I think it's reasonable to expect the company to do succession planning, especially after all the craziness we saw.
The board wouldn't be doing its job if it didn't have some sort of succession plan. Exactly.
That's different from replacing Elon. That's just making sure it's hey, when Elon feels like he can no longer be in that capacity, that he's valuable in that capacity, then the board has to step in.
How old is Elon now?
54?
Yeah, I think so.
4?
Right around there.
All right. Well, so we got 41 years. Buffett just retired.
At least. He's 53.
Dude, he's a legend, man. Shout out to him.
He's the GOAT. Yeah. Yeah, 53.
53.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, Elon's still pretty young. That's not really, I think, a pressing concern. But yeah, I think it is interesting, Joe's purchase. And, he has access to the Tesla rideshare service. We saw that video where people in the Bay Area are actually able to use the Tesla rideshare app, which, by the way, they just shipped a mobile app update yesterday, and it's got all the robotaxi UI hidden in the background. But they're using this daily. He's calling Teslas. He's seeing them pick him up with FSD, take him where he's going. I think there is some signal here in the fact that he decided he wanted to buy some shares. And $1 million is a lot of money. Doesn't matter how much Airbnb stock you have. People trying to say, well, it's just $1 million. You could buy a house for $1 million. There's other things you could do with that money. I think he has a lot of confidence in where the company's going. And, why do we even have the Airbnb founder on our board? It's really because his expertise in creating that sort of ecosystem where sort of people are listing their houses on Airbnb and renting them. That's exactly what they want to do at Tesla. And he's seen the potential of that idea. I think he understands the potential of this idea. A personally owned autonomous vehicle is something that everybody wants and that nobody's selling yet. And they're about to start FSD unsupervised in Austin.
I'm curious to see what happens with Elon sort of spending more time at Tesla starting this month. Later this month, he's going to not fully leave Doge, but significantly reduce his time at Doge and significantly increase his time at Tesla. In the past, when we've seen Elon focus on other things such as buying Twitter, and then he came back to Tesla in a much more full-time capacity starting in, I think, some point early, mid to 2023, we saw a lot of changes in rapid succession. And we saw some layoffs as well. And so I'm curious to see what Elon does when he sort of comes back to Tesla with more time, I guess. And
the hammer's going to come down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
like that. Like that Ari Gold scene in Entourage with the paintball gun, walks back in, just taking names. I don't know if you guys know the scene I'm talking about.
I do. Yeah,
just start shooting people. Very cool. Also, you mentioned Farzad. Maybe this is something that'll help with sales. That they're offering a 1-year free trial of FSD to new Cybertruck owners, right?
Yeah, I saw that come through. I think Omar mentioned it before we went live that we should talk about it. Yeah, I mean, I think what that signals is, I think people that bought Foundation with the FSD included, when they saw that, they're probably like, what the hell? Like, what the hell? Like, I spent all this money to get FSD for free, and now you're giving away free sort of 1-year FSD on the Cybertruck. It could be that maybe that's a way for Cybertruck owners to get more intervention data out to Tesla. Maybe they're looking for more intervention data.
That was my thinking. They just want to collect more data from the fleet.
I think so. I think maybe they're at the point now where they feel like the Cybertruck needs a little bit more data. So they're trying to get it in the hands of as many people as possible and let them. The problem with the Cybertruck, though, in FSD, so I have a Cybertruck, is that the Cybertruck is so freaking fun to drive. It's so freaking fun to drive that it's almost like I have to make a decision. Do I not want to drive this really fun thing? Or do I just let it drive me? And so, like, that's the decision I make every time I get in the car. It's like, do I feel like driving today? Like, no, I don't really feel like driving. Okay, I'll put FSD on. But then
did you buy FSD outright, or did you subscribe to it?
I subscribe to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I subscribe to it. Yeah, on the Cybertruck. On the Y, we have it full time. But the Y is different. Like the Y, I don't really, because again, the whole like concept of like that when you have steer by wire, the dynamic of drive, it's so hard to describe until you get into the car. Yeah. Like, and you actually try it. It just makes it so freaking fun to drive. Now, I'm sure at some point that novelty is going to wear off and be like, especially if they give me.
It hasn't in a year for me. It's still amazing every time.
Man, that's annoying. Now, the only time that's going to be great is if unsupervised comes through. Okay, if I get unsupervised on Cybertruck, then I'm going to be using that a lot more. And it's an interesting proxy, I think, for the vast majority of people and how they think about self-driving vehicles, which is like some people just like to drive. I think the majority don't care for driving, but I think some people just like to drive, right? But if you do unsupervised and you're like, you don't even have to pay attention, you can be on your phone or whatever, then that equation changes dramatically. Because, okay, do I really want to drive this really fun thing, or do I just want to do something else? And I don't have the ability to do something else right now in the Cybertruck. So I'd rather drive the Cybertruck than it take me around just because of how fun it is. But in the Model Y, it's FSD all day long, you know?
Yeah, I think with the Cybertruck FSD, I mean, first off, if you like driving Teslas, you have to try driving the Cybertruck. I think a lot of people think, oh, okay, well, it's a truck, it's big, I don't need a truck.
It's so fun.
I never would have imagined it would become my primary daily driver, but it's just that next generation Tesla drive experience. A lot of technologies that are probably going to be on other vehicles at the time, you can try it first on the Cybertruck, and it's just, out of this world. It's next level compared to the traditional Tesla drive experience. But, back to the FSD point, I think really what's going on here is other Teslas have a free version of autopilot that comes with the car. So you can buy a Model Y and you can buy a Model 3 and you get a free version of basic autopilot, even if you don't pay for FSD. For Cybertruck, they never developed that free basic autopilot. They don't have it. So rather than making their customers who don't pay for FSD just drive around with nothing, which would be very un-Tesla, I think they said, let's give everyone a 1-year free trial. They can at least have FSD if nothing else. And I think probably within the next year, they're going to develop a free version of FSD supervised replacing basic autopilot. The old basic autopilot, it was great at the time it was released. Now it's like 5 or 6 year old technology. So something based on the FSD stack, but that was free. You have to figure out how to tier it into free and paid tiers and give something that makes people want to pay. But I think we're moving into a world where, at least driving in one lane with the new FSD stack should be free. And longer term, as FSD unsupervised is available, I would say just include FSD supervised for free with the cars. For no extra cost, you get what we think of as FSD supervised today, which is I can get in the car, I can sit in it, punch in an address, and it'll drive me there. And I think people would pay the extra $8,000 or $99 a month just to unlock the ability of the car driving around without you in it, unsupervised. So that's where I think they're kind of going on pricing. I think they really gave this free trial to bridge the gap with the lack of basic autopilot until they have a free version of FSD that they can offer to these people.
Interesting.
And yeah, that's my theory.
That would be an insanely good value proposition if Tesla were to offer FSD supervised included. That'd be incredible.
And not only that, I think the customer too, if they're like, okay, so I get it for free, I have to pay attention. But if I don't have to pay attention, then as long as Tesla, which they would have to at this point, it wouldn't make any sense why they wouldn't. They take the responsibility in case of an accident or something bad happening, which means that it's basically Tesla's insurance that's covering the car. At that point, Tesla can very easily justify, like, hey, the monthly payment is for us to be able to cover in case something goes wrong, and then the customer gets their time back. Right, so they can either want to pay upfront or they can pay a monthly, like $199, $299. I think they can probably get away with charging a lot more than $99 a month for unsupervised, because that's a huge unlock. That's a gigantic unlock, especially for people that spend a lot of time on the road.
Honestly, it just kind of drives me nuts that there are Teslas out there that don't have FSD. I do feel like trying to monetize it in the short term is actually kind of an impediment to adoption. And is it really important to make $99 a month? Or, I think, first of all, you need to be selling every single car you can. And this really helps sell it. They should be giving people FSD if they buy a new car, or even giving 1-year trials as a demand lever. I think that's a demand lever they could push a lot more. Right now, they're giving 1 month or 3 months if you have a referral code. I think they should be pushing this much harder to people. I think it's really unfortunate if there's any cars out there that aren't using this technology. And a lot of people don't want to pay $99 or pay $8,000. So I would really like to see them, I think they can hook people if they push this hard, if they get this out to every vehicle, send everyone lots of trials, especially people who buy a new car, incentivize them with free FSD. That's a lever they should be pushing very hard, because it's going to create customers who are hooked on their product and will never think about buying anything else.
There's a Super Bowl commercial. There it is. Like, all of our cars drive themselves, included in the price of the car. We don't charge you anything else.
To your point, Omar, in the last couple, I think 2 or 3 quarters, they have, Tesla's been disclosing how many FSD miles they've been racking up every quarter on their earnings reports. I don't think we've seen an increase in the average FSD miles per day in like a couple quarters now, which tells you that they're selling more cars, but more people aren't using it. So that's not good. So you do make a good point to like, if they just like make this free for a while for everybody, like they could just get so much data. And I think they have the excess compute capabilities to be able to process all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think it's about the data as much as just getting the users hooked onto it.
Right.
If
That's
you get them hooked
yeah.
onto it, there's no other car they can buy that can do it. I mean, you hear it so often from people. Oh, I love using FSD. I never buy any other car. It's crazy to me that there are people who are going to buy this new Model Y, probably because it's a great deal at $37,000, and are probably going to skip out on FSD just because they're frugal. I think during this time, you should really be giving them the opportunity to get addicted to it. And I think that's going to serve Tesla very well long term.
I think that's a great idea.
I like it. It's a nice thing, I think, that people could have coming inside their Teslas. And speaking of just great things inside Teslas, unless anyone else has other items that they want to add, first off, obviously great episode. A lot of good talk here about different pricing, marketing styles. We wanted to wrap up the episode today with a little Tesla Corner conversation about, we're talking about what can make your inside of your Teslas amazing. And there's a lot of different things you can add to them. So a little Tesla Corner here conversation to wrap us up today, sponsored by our partner, JOWUA. Super excited to be doing this together with them. They create really high quality accessories for Teslas that look like they're made in the Tesla factory for you. These guys all religiously use them. So I figured we'd just roll around for a second. And so for people that already have a Tesla, or if you're getting one, what should you be adding into it to really maximize that experience and make it something that you just love to the next level? Sawyer, you are the most recent to acquire a Tesla. You've been using these. I'm curious, your thoughts, if there's maybe any stories of like, hey, this was super helpful. I didn't realize this was gonna, be such a great piece. We can just work around here. Some thoughts from you guys on how you really set up that inside of your Tesla to just be the best haven possible.
I think you try to just do little quality of life improvements. Like when you're eating like food in a car, you kind of just put it in your lap and just it often will just spill in different places, or like fries will fall down the side of your seat. So like I know JOWUA has these car trays that you just sort of put right in front of you, and they fit perfectly on either side of you, and they fold just really neatly into the frunk. And I got a couple of those, and it makes it eating much better in the car. So I'd get a couple of those. They're not too expensive either.
I could imagine for people that also, they roll things in their car, that could be helpful for them, All
if you live in California.
Yeah. Cali living.
Wow.
Never know.
Wow, they're only $15, and that's not a fake reaction. That's cheaper than I remembered them being.
That's crazy. They need to raise their prices. You better snag them now, y'all, before they raise them, honestly.
What is that bundle?
That's a great value.
Tray?
Yeah, there you go. So you can play video games or whatever. You can put whatever on it. You can even work from it if you want.
I've actually used it to put my laptop on there. So I'm turning my Cybertruck into this like mobile studio, and those trays are actually they're pretty awesome. Like, look at that! Like the one picture had like the controller and all that stuff. That's great.
I have the gray ones.
The controllers are really cool. Yeah. See, that's exactly how I had my setup. So I would do it on the passenger seat for me. So I would move from the driver's seat to the passenger seat to work. Then I'm able to place the trays right there. I move the seat back so I have a bit of room there so I can work. It's awesome. And really the thing that really stands out to me is that, sometimes you would think, some accessories are cheap, like they don't feel great. JOWUA stuff feels great, man. Especially the I can't speak highly enough of the in-car mount that they do, the suction mount for like phones and stuff. If you have the magnetic ring and stuff for it to attach to it, I mean that thing is solid. And I have an iPhone Pro Max, like a 15 Pro Max. I don't even know what the hell I have anymore. Everything's the same now from Apple. But I have this guy, and that's one of the ones they have, and they have another one that's magnetic. That's really, really good, and it's super, and it holds stuff really well. It holds stuff really, really tight. You can also like change how tight you want it in the back if you want it to give you a little bit more play, so you can move it around a little bit easier, or you can just put it like rock solid and it doesn't go anywhere. That's what I do for my content. It's just stuck in there, and it also acts as a charging pad as well. So I love that thing. I use that thing. I literally used it today to record video in my Cybertruck. So JOWUA is the stuff, man. They really do a really good job.
Did you guys see the electric scooter that they're selling?
No way.
I have one of those.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I think the tray table is going to be great for unsupervised FSD. And the little magnetic phone holder, if your cabin camera is driving you nuts like mine is, that thing really helps. But I've got a really simple one, which I think everybody needs. It's just this little USB hub. So what this thing actually can do is it's got a USB port and an SD card port. So if you want to record your dash cam stuff to an SD card rather than a USB, you can do that. And then you've got 2 other USB ports. So sometimes I want to plug in like the karaoke microphone or something. You got to unplug your dash cam drive. Hopefully, you don't crash while you're singing karaoke. With this, you can plug in a bunch of different devices, and it's cheap. It's great. It's also like kind of a pain in the ass sometimes reaching in there and pulling the drive in and out. This makes it a lot easier. So yeah, the USB hub is pretty cool. I have these in all my Teslas.
Where do you put them?
You just put them in the glove compartment.
Nice.
Just little quality improvements to life. Again, you guys probably saw it, but the discount was built into the code. So we are going to put a link that's in the pinned comment of this video, or just commented right below if you're on X. And that link already has a discount built into it. You can see the money that you can save on each item. Model Y tissue box holder set, apparently a popular one. And with that also, if you don't have the code built in, you can just click Gigacast. By the way, I noticed, we haven't talked about it.
I have a joke about that. What's unsupervised, but I'm going to keep it.
Yeah, unsupervised, huh? So this one guy bought like a big order when we were talking about stuff in our last video. And I noticed that he bought the all Model Y, all weather floor liners combo Juniper, which I guess you can get like floor liners and different stuff like that. This guy bought the tempered glass screen protector for the screen, like just different things that I guess you can just add on to really improve the quality. There's an armrest organizer for $30. So just like continuous little things that some of the stuff I didn't even realize, you could add on. And it seems like, hey, if you love your Tesla and you're spending a lot of time in it, especially once we get to unsupervised, I feel like this stuff's even better, right? That's when JOWUA X unsupervised FSD is going to go crazy.
We should get their testimonials. Those customers are very happy with their JOWUA products. We would love to share their stories on here because listen, like we're sponsored by JOWUA for a reason. It's because we really enjoy their products, So it's like us saying it is one thing, but if we have customers that have purchased their products as well, and we can share their stories, I think
especially the tissue box. We need to hear those stories. That's
especially
important.
The tissue box. Big.
I think we know what those stories are like.
Drop us a DM.
Maybe we shouldn't share them.
leave us a voice note through the Gigacast on X.
Actually, scratch that. We don't want to know.
But yeah, there you go. A little Tesla Corner Talk brought to you by JOWUA. All ways that you can constantly be improving your daily life experience inside of your Tesla that you love so much. Plus, you get a little bit of a discount code through us, and it helps us support the pod, which we love. Walking around here for some final comments. Omar, any other thoughts on pretty extensive conversation today?
Yeah, I think that Tesla this year is selling the best products that they've ever had in the company's history. They have FSD with AI4. They've got this brand new Model Y. I really want to see, them break through 500,000 deliveries in a single quarter this year. I want to see sales start growing. And, a lot of people say, well, Optimus and FSD are the future. They don't need to grow sales. I think growing car sales is still really important. And I'm hopeful that now that Elon is putting more focus into Tesla, we see them try something new here and get the sales trajectory on a different trend.
Absolutely. Farzad?
Yeah, I agree with Omar. I think their product lineup is super, super exciting. I think they have by far the best car on the road in the United States, easily. Even in countries like China that have a very competitive, super competitive auto market, their domestic car makers put ours to shame outside of Tesla. Even in those markets, Tesla performs really well, which really speaks to how awesome of a company they are. And so, yeah, it's going to be a huge year for them in a lot of different respects. They need to execute at a very high level, and the big variable is FSD. and how unsupervised is going to go. And if that goes really well to where we think it can go, then they have a one-of-one product. Nobody else has anything close, not even in China, not even close. And they're going to be able to make these things at 2 to 3 million units per year at least. And this is before Cybercab, and this is before the bot. So a lot of exciting stuff coming down the pike. I can't wait for June. Can't freaking wait for June.
1 month. Crazy. May 7th right now. So you want to bookend us?
Yeah. I think Omar makes a good point. I'd like to see Tesla sell over 500,000 vehicles in a quarter of this year. Tesla making as much money as possible on their vehicle business helps them advance their other initiatives and helps them to be able to invest more in their other initiatives. If they're making less and less money, it results in them having to be a little bit more conservative with their cash pile. And their cash pile is still growing. But so I'd like Tesla to get even more creative with figuring out how to sell more vehicles. We talked about the advertising. I know Elon's is definitely against that. But maybe it's time. Just dip your toe in. Or more so, actually, more than they did in 2023 and see how it goes. But we're 3 weeks away from one of the biggest moments in Tesla's history, so that's really exciting. And I think a lot of people will be talking about that, both good and bad. But yeah, looking forward to it.
I'm very excited to be in Austin. I'll say that.
Yeah, you're lucky.
I'm so
you're right
happy
there.
to be in this area. I'm very lucky. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm curious. I wonder if Tesla will do like an event or something, or if they're just going to like flip these things on and then they go off and that's it.
First come, everyone goes to the city. Creates chaos. Yeah, I hope they do.
Yeah, Farzad's going to guinea pig it. Which, by the way, fun fact about guinea pigs, I found out they're not pigs. They're not from New Guinea, and they never were actually used as guinea pigs for anything. So I don't know how they got that name, but I don't know. I learned that this.
See, that's some bad marketing right there.
That's when the mainstream media is leading the propaganda on guinea pigs.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the guinea pigs are like, we don't test anything on us. We're good. That's not what we do. Very fun. Super cool. So I think everybody, hopefully you came away with a lot of takeaways from this. You understand how cheap you can get a Tesla for, how expensive you can get a Tesla for, what's going to affect the cost over the next several months, how Tesla can really get these sales going and ramp things with marketing and so many other topics. Plus, of course, a great Tesla corner on how to improve the quality of your everyday Tesla life. That's going to do it for this one. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe, like the video, drop a comment below. Listen, all the comments roasting me, I'll take them. It's engagement, doesn't bother me. Please keep coming. Give constructional feedback. We'll take it. All the comments about Farzad, I don't think we had any table banging today. So I didn't hear any. Maybe hang a little. There we go. Now you got your table banging in for all those wearing headphones. That's going to do it. We'll see you on the next one. Appreciate everyone. Some of you watch these whole things, we can tell, which we love to see. Their attention's awesome. So appreciate all of you. Another great one coming next week. Take care.